Hey guys, great to be live with you. Well, there are a lot of new details in the suspicious so called suicide of a Boeing whistleblower who was set to give his final day of testimony and deposition in a lawsuit against the powerful Boeing company when he turns up dead, shot in the head. We're going to have details on the scene here because the local news is now on it. What I love about local news when they really get on a case like this, they have all the connections to the local scene so they can cover it better than the corporate, the national news. So they have details on the scene as well. There's more details on this creepy activity of Boeing and apparently trying to hide evidence related to the safety issues that this whistleblower was trying to expose. A lot of new developments. And this man's attorney, who spent extensive time with him the day before he turned up dead, put out a statement saying there was zero indication that this man was suicidal and he wants a thorough investigation. Well, guess what? It appears police are conducting that thorough investigation. And we're going to get to all of it real quick. Let's show what the local news has been covering now that they're on it. Here it is.
A brave, honest man of the highest integrity. Police discovered his body over the weekend in a pickup truck parked in a Charleston hotel parking lot.
His attorneys say they can't believe he's gone or that he would be the one to take his own life, as the Charleston County coroner said appeared to be the case.
Our Blair Sable and Emily Johnson joining us now with team coverage to break down what we know so far.
We'll start things off with Blair. Blair, why do lawyers feel that something's not quite right here?
Well, sure, Roth, we reached out to John Barnett's attorneys who have worked with him closely as he has gone after the airline giant for retaliation in response to his whistleblower complaints. And they say that this was all close to being over with, and they say they are in complete denial that their client would take his own life with all of this getting so close to looking to be in the rear view mirror. And I want to share with you a little bit of their statement they shared today. Robert Turkowitz and Brian Knowles said in part he was in very good spirits and really looking forward to putting this phase of his life behind him and moving on. We didn't see any indication he would take his own life. No one can believe it. Charleston police now are investigating Barnett's death, and they have released some information to the public today telling us this all began as a welfare check called into the Holiday Inn on Savannah Highway, where Barnett was staying on Saturday morning. And he was supposed to check out on Friday after initially extending his stay. And he was seen on surveillance footage leaving the hotel that morning. Records show someone named Rob, who called himself a friend, asked the hotel to check up on him, expressing concern about his whereabouts. Employees then discovered Barnett's body in an orange 2015 Dodge Ram pickup truck in a back parking lot of the hotel. And earlier that morning, an employee had said they had heard a pop sound near that car a little less than an hour before police arrived, but didn't think anything of it. Police say they found Barnett had a silver handgun in his right hand with his finger still on the trigger and a gunshot wound to his head. And a white piece of paper on the passenger seat resembling a note was also found. We do not know what that note says. And Barnett was declared dead at the scene. And his attorneys have asked for no details to be left unturned in this case. And it is important to note the Charleston County coroner has not officially ruled the cause of death. In Charleston, Blair Sable, Live 5 News. Back to you.
All right, Blair.
Okay, we need to know what that suicide note said. Now we know there's a suicide note that could either prove that he did commit suicide or give evidence that someone else wrote that note. So we want to see what that note said. But the hotel staff said that they heard a pop sound that morning, which is apparently him shooting himself. And then there's surveillance video of him leaving the building. So not a ton of evidence. Now the local news tracked down his orange truck, which was impounded under police protection. Police are apparently still investigating that truck, which is good. They better look for a lot of DNA evidence as much as they can. The attorneys are not buying it. They said there was just no indication the day before. I mean, this was a winning whistleblower who had been waiting for this moment. He's finally getting closure in all his work. Why would he just throw in the towel on life. Now, the attorneys, I want to read their whole statement that they sent Robert Turkowitz and Brian Knowles. John, it says, quote, John was a brave, honest man with the highest integrity. He cared dearly about his family, his friends, and the Boeing company. Oh, real quick before I finish that statement, we're also going to show what Boeing is responding themselves. Real quick though, shout out to the sponsor of my coverage. Gold has soared past 2,100 an ounce in 2023. Donald Trump recently warned the U.S. dollar no longer being the world standard will be the greatest defeat in 200 years. Military conflict in Israel, Ukraine, and Yemen, plus rate cuts on the table are fueling gold's meteoric rise. Several major banks are all forecasting sizable rate cuts in an election year. Some say this is Biden's Hail Mary attempt to keep the White House. Meanwhile, our national debt is skyrocketing. There's a direct correlation to the national debt and the price of gold. In 2020, the U.S. debt was $23 trillion and gold was $1,500 an ounce. By 2023, debt had soared to $33 trillion and gold then jumped in value to $2,000 an ounce. Why are so many Americans adding physical gold and silver to their portfolios and retirement plans? Learn why. You can call America's own precious metals company, the National Gold Group, today. Mention my channel, Ivory Hecker. You'll always get best-in-class service from America's conservative precious metals leader. National Gold Group is it has an IRA fee waiver program on qualifying rollovers. Call 888-617-5927. Get a free investor guide today. National Gold Group is a Consumer Affairs top-rated gold IRA dealer. Call 888-617-5927 today. Remember, there's always a risk of loss, and past performance is not indicative of future results. We are live. I'm checking your comments. Hello from Arkansas, y'all. Good to see someone from Arkansas. Jeffrey Epstein also didn't kill himself. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of questionable suicides out there. There's likely video footage of parking lot. Also, what phone calls came into his phone before the time of his death? Exactly. We need to know. Now, what they were saying, that local news report indicated that the surveillance footage only showed a certain distance of him leaving the building, not the full parking lot. But hopefully there is some parking lot footage from covering crimes over the years. I know that police don't always reveal everything that they have, very purposely, so that the criminal is out of the loop. What police in this stage of an investigation, what police want is for the criminal to relax, for the criminal to think that police believe this is a suicide. And so it could be that police are withholding evidence from the public to let the criminal think that the police just feel it's a suicide, and the criminal relaxes, lets down their guard, and police are able to get the details that they wouldn't otherwise get if the criminal went into hiding. So could be that police has more than we know right now. I'm sure they are looking at his phone records as well. It appears the police are treating this as a potential murder. Although they are not blatantly saying that. They said that they are on this. Okay, let me finish the attorney statement here. John was a brave, honest man of the highest integrity. He cared deeply about his family, his friends, the Boeing company, his Boeing coworkers, and the pilots and people who flew on the Boeing aircraft. We have rarely met someone with a more sincere and forthright character. In the course of his job as a quality manager at the Boeing, South Carolina, John learned and exposed very serious safety problems with the Boeing 787 Dreamliner and was retaliated against and subjected to a hostile work environment, which is the subject of his pending AIR 21 case. John was in the midst of a deposition in his whistleblower retaliation case, which finally was nearing the end. He was in very good spirits and really looking forward to putting this phase of his life behind him and moving on. We didn't see any indication that he would take his own life. No one can believe this. We are all devastated. We need more information about what happened to John. The Charleston police need to investigate this fully and accurately and tell the public what they find out. No detail can be left unturned. That's the end of the statement from John's attorney. So you can see by the tone of that statement, they do not believe this was a suicide. They want details on what really happened. Now, the local news is really making up for lost time, digging way into it. I love it. Shout out to Live 5 WCSC, Local News Charleston. They say, quote, police discovered Barnett after welfare check requested. Police said that officers found Barnett in his orange 2015 Dodge Ram truck, dead from a gunshot wound to the head Saturday morning. Police were sent to the Holiday Inn on Savannah Highway shortly before 10:20 a.m. to perform a welfare check, Sergeant Anthony Gibson said. Police said a friend named Rob called police to request that they check on Barnett. Officers found the truck in the hotel's back parking lot. An incident report states an orange truck was located Tuesday at an impound lot in North Charleston. The woman working the counter said that the truck had Louisiana plates and was the subject of a police hold. Charleston, so what that tells us is that police identified the truck on Saturday. Local news played catch up and found the truck on Tuesday. And police have it on a hold, which is a good thing. That means police are investigating this truck. All right. It says Charleston County Coroner Bobby Joe O'Neill said Barnett died Saturday, quote, from what appeared to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Police said Barnett had a silver handgun in his right hand with his finger still on the trigger and had suffered an apparent gunshot wound to his right temple. An employee told police that they heard a pop sound near the car less than an hour before police arrived, but the employee said that they didn't think anything about it. So sometime in the 9 o'clock hour a.m., he shot himself, according to what the employee heard. Police also noted that there was a white piece of paper resembling a note on the passenger seat of the car. The report did not specify the contents of the note, but Dr. Kenny Kinsey, a criminal justice expert who testified during the Alex murder trial, said that depending on what people found, it could either mean the end of the investigation or just the beginning. Here's the statement from police, quote, detectives are actively investigating this case and are awaiting the formal cause of death, along with any additional findings that might shed further light on the circumstances surrounding the death of Mr. Barnett. We understand the global attention this case has garnered, and it is our priority to ensure that the investigation is not influenced by speculation, but is led by facts and evidence. So the official autopsy isn't even out yet, and that will determine a lot, hopefully a lot more. Although if it's a faked suicide, if it's a murder staged suicide, how easy is it for the coroner to identify that? I bet it's pretty difficult. The Post and Courier local news has a statement from Boeing. It says, quote, after news of Barnett's death broke, Boeing issued a statement saying that the company was, quote, saddened by Mr. Barnett's passing and our thoughts are with his family and friends. They gave a one-line statement on how they felt about Barnett. I'm sure they're very sad that the man creating so much exposure for their negligence has died. The news reports Charleston police in turn announced that an active investigation is ongoing as they wait for the cause of death to be formally confirmed. Right. So that's the newspaper also reporting that a lot of this depends on the autopsy results. Now, the family of Mr. Barnett is responding, and they actually seem to feel it could have been a suicide. New York Post reporting family of Boeing whistleblower John Barnett blames hostile work environment for his death. The family of Boeing whistleblower found dead on the day that he was scheduled to testify against the jet plane manufacturer blamed the company's hostile work environment for his apparent suicide. Quote, he was suffering from PTSD and anxiety attacks as a result of being subject to the hostile work environment at Boeing, which we believe led to his death, relatives of John Barnett said in the first remarks since his death. So was it PTSD and anxiety? His attorneys who spent extensive time with him the day before are not buying that. I don't know what relative this is, but his attorneys said that he was in good spirits because he was a winning whistleblower about to close the final chapter of winning. He's got the federal government going after Boeing right now. Full force of the federal government, NTSB, FAA, now the DOJ, all coming after Boeing. And this guy was about to do his final day of deposition Why would he commit suicide on that day? But his family says that they feel could have been PTSD related. New York Post continues. Barnett, who worked for the jetliner giant for more than 3 decades as a quality inspector and manager before retiring in 2017, was found dead from what the Charleston County coroner ruled a self-inflicted gunshot wound in his truck in the parking lot of the South Carolina hotel on Saturday. Ooh, that's a misleading line. It was actually, the coroner said it appeared to be self-inflicted, but that the final results of the coroner's investigation are not out yet. Goes on to say the engineer was due in court to provide further testimony in his whistleblower lawsuit against the company, but never showed. A welfare check was requested and his body was discovered in his orange pickup with a silver handgun still in his hand. You know what's interesting in reading these updates is that Mr. Barnett apparently was going to check out of that hotel on Friday. And then he extended it to Saturday. So it appears that deposition testimony lasted longer than expected. He was reported to have been deposed. That means private testimony to the defendants. So the defendants, Boeing, interviewed him for 7 hours on Thursday. This past Thursday. Then this past Friday, deposition continued with cross-examination by his lawyer. So he's hanging out with his lawyers all day Friday. He's in great spirits. He's winning. And then it gets extended to Saturday. They're supposed to do day 3 of deposition. So he extends his hotel stay and then turns up dead. Very strange. I want to show you some very interesting details that TMZ has been exposing. You know, TMZ is known for its gossip, but they actually do some pretty good investigating. They have details on one of the things that Mr. Barnett was predicting for years. He has been, I believe it was 2012 was the first time he became alarmed. And then he became more and more vocal and more publicly vocal when the company wouldn't do anything privately. And he predicted this door plug issue. There's a lot of faulty things happening. My last podcast, we talked about the 50 people who were just injured over the weekend in a flight between Australia and New Zealand due to a malfunction in a Boeing 787. And now Alaska Airlines has further details on this incident in January, which he predicted. Boeing door plug removal video overwritten. Guess what? They got details on the sketchiness of Boeing hiding evidence. It says, quote, Boeing's video footage showing exactly who worked on the 737 MAX 9 door that flew off in Alaska Airlines flight has been erased, and the NTSB believes the company is trying to hide the information. NTSB just wanted to see the exact human being who put that door on, so they know who to blame for the negligence. And why is Boeing hiding who put a faulty door on or who put faulty screws in the door? It says National Transportation Safety Board Chairman Jennifer Homendy wrote a letter Wednesday, that's today, to the Senate Commerce Committee saying that they're still in the dark about which Boeing employees were involved in the door's repair. They had requested the list of names when the preliminary report into the investigation revealed that the door had no bolts during the mid-flight scare on January 5th. No bolts at all? That sounds pretty intentional. Homendy accused Boeing of obstructing their investigation, telling Senators Maria Cantwell and Ted Cruz, quote, we still have no clue who did the work to open, reinstall, and close the door plug on the accident aircraft. She added, quote, Boeing has informed us that they are unable to find the records documenting this work. Who did that work, and then who hid the video evidence of who did that work? Super sketchy. Let's look. TMZ actually has video evidence here of This video is from when the door flew off. Now, the people on the flight say this wasn't a door. This was just a section of the plane that flew off.
This wasn't even the emergency door. We're at the end of the plane, so the emergency door's right there. It was just a piece of the plane.
Okay, so there was no one seated there. There was thankfully no one seated near the window. Yeah, they just said. Yeah, I thought we were too.
I guess they were pretty low altitude. Then they had to turn around and go park that plane real quick. I'm shocked that nobody was hurt. But nobody happened to be sitting right next to where that section of the plane flew off. Crazy. Because they're going at such high speeds. That's why it's like, did nobody get sucked out that section? Everyone must have been wearing their seatbelt. Crazy, scary stuff, though. In her letter, Homendy said that she then reached out to Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun to obtain the names, but he informed her that he couldn't provide that information, maintaining Boeing had no records of the work being done. There's another view of the missing section of the plane where it flew off. Now, it was January 31st that TMZ conducted this interview with John Barnett, and we played that interview clip in my last podcast. He didn't seem like he was the type to commit suicide there. He was spitting facts there. Meanwhile, it says Boeing is facing more issues, including a flight this week from Australia to New Zealand that started falling from the sky after experiencing massive equipment failure. And TMZ has that video too. Let's see if it'll, I've got to play that in the screen for you guys here. Here, let me bring it on screen. Here's the Australia to New Zealand flight that just happened over the weekend.
You'll be okay, don't worry. Yeah, you'll be okay.
There's laptop store.
Yeah.
Not you. This is not expected. All right.
And keep your seatbelt fastened until the seatbelt sign is turned off. If you have computers, you must turn them off and store them.
Crazy. Well, that was after people fell back down from the ceiling. An eyewitness that CNN interviewed said that when the plane just started to drop from the Australian skies, about 50 people just hit the ceiling and were just on the ceiling before they fell back down. So crazy. I also read that the Boeing incident January 5th, some of the luggage was getting sucked out of the flight. But so apparently, since the flight had just taken off, everyone was still seat belted, and that's why human beings didn't get sucked out of that section of the plane that flew off. But luggage did. I read. Now, here I've got the witness testimony, or the witness interview with CNN on that Boeing incident that just happened in Australia, which the whistleblower John Barnett predicted and then died a day or two before it happened. But here it is.
Okay, physically, I can only imagine the trauma. I mean, it's a terrifying incident. Can you describe to me exactly what happened? You know, you're flying along. I think in your case, you dozed off, and then what?
Yeah, thank you. It was like a scene out of a movie when actually you're actually in the movie. I had dozed off and luckily had my seatbelt engaged, and the next thing you know, the plane, as I've kind of learned to understand, dropped something to the effect of 500 feet instantly, and then had the effect of it coming like a roller coaster, and then started to point down. And that's when I opened my eyes, and there was various individuals at the top of the plane, just stuck to the roof, and then they fell to the floor. And then I just realized I'm not in a movie. This is actually for real, and not dreaming. This is for real.
Woo, scary stuff. I'm shocked that nobody died in these two incidents. I'm going to be wearing my seatbelt on my next airplane flight. You guys, you better believe. Check in your comments. Ivory herself was a whistleblower. Yes, I was. And I remember when I blew the whistle on Fox and exposed a lot of pharmaceutical stuff that Fox was running cover for. Look, I say Fox, but all the media was in lockstep on this topic. I just happen to be a Fox Corp employee, so I'm speaking on behalf of my company, my former company, knowing that they were indeed running cover for pharmaceutical malfeasance. And when I blew the whistle, I was like, I don't know if Fox Corp's going to come after me. I don't know if WHO is going to come after me, because I exposed WHO. And did an embarrassing interview with one of their people. It embarrassed them because it proved, a lot of my evidence proved that there was blood on the hands of the meeting. But my best friend recently talked to me. She's like, it was so crazy how you were back then. She said that I said that I don't care if they kill me, which I don't remember saying that, but I do remember like just being absolutely adamant. Like I have to get this information out. Like I can't live with myself if I sit around hiding this information like a coward. And so I guess I was ready to die at that time at their hands if they wanted to kill me, because I was going to get away from their corruption and expose it. So that's the mindset of a whistleblower. And I know Justin Leslie, I'm confident, had the same mindset when he blew the whistle on Pfizer, which you guys may have seen 2 videos ago. I just did a video with Justin, and I'm glad to see Justin's courage. And I'm sure that John Barnett may have felt the same way. Oftentimes people do want to kill whistleblowers, and that's why we have questions about whether John Barnett really died. Whether he was actually killed by himself or whether he was killed by Boeing. So police are investigating that. But yeah, if I ever die prematurely, I didn't kill myself. Let me say that again right now. This doggy, I am dog sitting and the dog's going crazy. Okay, so thank you guys for tuning in. WHO treaty needs to be stopped. Yes, I'm tired of our governments giving more power to the WHO. Rebecca says, appreciate you, Ivory. Hey, I appreciate you guys and all your support for me after I blew the whistle. Of course, the media smeared me because I was exposing the media. Why would they say nice things to me when I'm exposing them? John Barnett, we're going to continue following his mysterious death. I send healing to the family. I'm sure it's devastating to his family that this man who was a hero is now suddenly dead in such a horrible way with a gunshot to the head. We want to know what the suicide note said. We want to know what's on his phone. We want to know whether there's more surveillance video in that parking lot. We want to know a lot of things. We want to know what's on the phone of the Boeing executives. We want to know the phone correspondence that Boeing attorneys had after the deposition. We want to know which people in the Boeing company watched the deposition video. So this is a private deposition testimony interview between Boeing attorneys and Mr. Barnett. Not a lot of people saw that video. Private interview, 7 hours long on Thursday. Cross-examination on Friday. Who in the company at Boeing was reviewing the 7 hours of video on Friday? And what sort of phone calls did they make? What happened on Friday that may have led to Saturday? What did John Barnett say on Thursday that could have been so damning to Boeing that now he ends up dead on Saturday? We have to ask all these questions. It's too suspicious. All these circumstances are not something that would, the things that led up to this are not something that would cause someone to be suicidal. This man was winning. The FAA had his back, NTSB had his back, DOJ had his back. His attorneys had his back. He had a list of other whistleblowers the attorneys were representing. Before I wrap this up, let me just show you a LinkedIn post by Mr. Barnett's attorney, Brian Knowles. He wrote this 7 months ago. Are whistleblowers protected in the U.S.? Yes. Under the SEC, CFTC, AML, and other U.S. government agency programs, the identity of the whistleblower can remain anonymous if represented by counsel in the U.S. Our firm has filed anonymous complaints to the government on behalf of those who fear retaliation for speaking up to help shine light on fraud and corrupt practices. And he goes on, but this is an attorney who specializes in whistleblowers, protecting them. And he was protecting Mr. Barnett after he had already gone public, been retaliated against. He's very suspicious about this, and we all are, and we're going to keep following this and see if we can get the truth about what happened to Mr. John Barnett. Thank you all for tuning in. Great being with you. Hit like, share, subscribe, comment. We'll see you next time. Bye.